Right, as promised, we are joined by Mike Johnston from the Ealing Road Podcast. Mike, not your first time on this podcast. Great to have you back once again. A very, very weird time for both of our clubs right now. I know we're a little bit pressed for your time, so I want to get straight into things with the Bees. Well, I do want to get straight into things, but what I want to ask you first is what we've been talking about on this podcast the entire time. What do you make of the West Ham fans and their plan to boycott the game by way of protest against the owners on Monday night?
That's a difficult question. I think it's admirable with everything that's going on and has been going on at West Ham for a long time. I do feel like it seems like one of the clubs in crisis, at least when Potter was in charge. It felt like the team in crisis in the Premier League. And I do feel like there needs to be some sort of kind of cultural reset, whether that comes at kind of changes at board level, and whether changes at board level are realistic, I don't know. But in terms of the protests, I mean, you know, West Ham fans will know better than me what the attitudes of Brady and Sullivan will be towards those protests. And some of the things that they will say in response to those protests, if they even say anything, because I feel like transparency is a big thing with West Ham fans. And at the moment, or at least over the last few years, you seem to be getting none of it. It feels like it's reached boiling point. Obviously, success on the pitch will help to kind of ease that. But if it continues in the way that it's going this season, which I don't think it will under Nuno, but if it does, it could get very ugly. So, I mean, yes, I'm in support of the protest. You don't want an unhappy fan base. But, you know, you guys will know better than me the attitudes of Brady and Sullivan.
Yeah, quite, mate. Quite. Do you think it'll have an impact on the actual game, on Brentford, on the sort of players or anything like that? Really, is there much chat around it among Brentford fans?
Not too much. What I will say is that it kind of works in our favour in that Brentford so far this season, or at least Keith Andrews, hasn't been too great at kind of turning defeats into wins. We've been quite good at dropping points from winning positions, but if you can go 1 or 2-0 up against Brentford this season, it does feel like Andrews is reluctant to make the changes to kind of go out and get a draw or go out and get a win. So if there's less fans in the stadium, or fewer fans in the stadium, I should say, and fewer fans to kind of make that atmosphere as hostile as it needs to be to hang on to points, then that, I guess, only works in our favour.
Yeah, quite. I mean, not the most hostile of places in recent times, the London Stadium. Well, it has been hostile, but not necessarily for the opposition. More so for the board and often the players and the management staff. Mike, talk to me then about Brentford. Bit of a strange time. First of all, more of the macro stuff. Thomas Frank leaves, Keith Andrews, first of all, but just talk to me about Thomas Frank going to Tottenham, and how did that feel for you? What was the feeling, your own feeling, and that of the Bees fans?
Heartbreaking, to tell the truth. I think I am surprised that we managed to hold on to Thomas Frank for so long, given how much of a great job that he did when he was at the club. I tried to kind of hold myself in a bit of deniability throughout the whole kind of saga, thinking it wasn't going to happen. But I think as things started to pick up, the inevitable was that he was going to join Spurs. But I think every Brentford brand just expresses a degree of gratitude to what Thomas Frank did for Brentford over the last kind of 6-7 years, taking us into the Prem, establishing us as like a. Yeah, I've said this a few times, but I feel like there was a season where we were a bit kind of towards the bottom end of the table, but really and truly, since we've been in the Prem, the only way we've been looking is up, and that is massive credit to Thomas Frank. The culture that he instilled with the players, with the fans, with the board, everything was aligned. So to lose a manager like that, to lose the figurehead of the club, like when you think of Brentford, you think of Thomas Frank, or at least you did for 6 or 7 years. So yeah, to lose someone like that was tough. But, you know, I wish him all the best at Spurs. I know you guys won't, but I do.
You know what? It's funny. I obviously, I don't wish him the best at Spurs at all, really. If there was some sort of way where he could succeed, but the club didn't, then that would be ideal. I think I've told you this before. I remember being at his unveiling press conference at Brentford. And I think there was 3 of us in the room. I think there was one Sky camera with a proper, like D-list reporter on the gig, and then three other sort of reporters in the room. And I remember being really like sort of taken by him, the way he spoke. And obviously he was sort of coming in off the back of Dean Smith. It was like some big shoes to fill. And sort of fearing a little bit that he may not be able to sort of live up to what Dean Smith had done, and just strength of character and all that sort of stuff. So I've sort of watched him sort of plot his course at Brentford with a bit more, sort of desire for him to do well, and a little bit more sort of what's the word? I don't know, affection for him, I suppose. And yeah, you're quite right. I think the job he's done was absolutely remarkable. It almost, if it wasn't Tottenham, it's nice to see him go to a I don't even want to say it, a club who get more fans in the stadium every week. But did you feel that he could have done better than Tottenham?
I said a few times, I think he could have, whether he should have or not, I don't know, but he could have held out for a better opportunity or a more sure thing. I think what you need to take into account as well is that Brentford, we're a club that do things quite differently in terms of the recruitment process.
Right.
When he signed at Spurs, Daniel Levy was still there, and we all know his record in the transfer market, which isn't great, but everything at Brentford was aligned, and you're going from a club that is so efficient in the way that we do things in terms of our use of data, etc., to Spurs, which is a massive, massive change. I know that. I have been told that there were admirers at Liverpool of Thomas Frank. I think he was interviewed for the Man United job. He was very close to taking the Villa job before Unai Emery got it as well. I think Thomas Frank, and obviously I'm biased, but I think Thomas Frank is a really special manager. And I think he could have done it at any of the clubs in the Prem. So yeah, it's a bit of a risk going to Spurs, but he's doing all right so far, I think.
In a way, I'm not even saying it's a risk necessarily. I think you almost, like, Villa would have made sense. I think I do feel that, given his sort of track record, I think there was probably a little bit of trepidation in some of the Premier League's very biggest clubs of doing a similar thing to what Chelsea did with Graham Potter, I think, where I think, and I hope, to be quite frank, that, pun not intended, believe it or not, that he uses Tottenham as a stepping stone, because I think there'll be more faith in the decision makers at the very biggest clubs, not just in the Premier, but in Europe as well, where if he's able to do it at Tottenham, because that will be, it's all very well being a good coach, and like you say, you're so well run and the recruitment's so good that everything lines up, and it's sort of, that's one part of it, isn't it? Being tactically aware and tactically gifted and being able to set a team up. That's one side of it. But managing upwards, sideways, the fan base, that it's a different level. There will be new skills that he hasn't got or had that will be required of him at Tottenham. And I think those are skills that so often get overlooked, about the need for managers to have skills like that at these bigger clubs. Do you sort of sense that, because that was my only concern, and I'm sort of led to believe that there was concerns around that at the bigger clubs in the Prem. Do you feel he's got that in him? Has he got that necessary sort of strength of character and steel and vigor to manage, and I'm talking probably more, a fan base and just that extra layer of scrutiny, which in a totally unpatronising way, there just isn't at Brentford?
Of course, yeah, no, 100%. I think that, like you said, one of the main reasons that clubs may have been reticent to give him a chance is that, you can lose 3, 4, 5 games on the bounce at Brentford because of all the credit that he's got in the bank. No one's really going to care too much. We might criticise the performance and criticise the decisions he makes on the pitch, but because he is who he is, we love him, so he can't really do much wrong. I think he's got it, though. I think even if you listen to some of the things that he's already been saying in press conferences, in post-match interviews, he's already building a relationship between him and the fans. When I heard him say after they beat City, and he said, I was in love with Brentford and I'm slowly falling in love with Tottenham. Fans lap that stuff up. I know because I did it. You talk like you've got someone who's in charge of your club talking about your club in that way. That inspires the connection between yourself and the fans. and he's so good at it. Honestly, he's one of the best communicators, I would say, in the Premier League in terms of what he says in his press conferences, how he speaks to journalists, how he communicates with the fans. So all of the signs, I think, are there for him to be successful at Tottenham. But I think that the thing that he hasn't experienced, and he hasn't experienced yet at Tottenham even, is that level of scrutiny, because he's made a pretty decent start. What, they third or fourth in the Prem now? I think that's still third.
Third, yeah.
Because he's made a great start, he's not experienced that yet. But, lose a few games on the bounce, and he will experience it because there are so many more eyes.
And Burmo goes as well. Positive, negative. What did you make of that? Slightly more acrimonious departure, I sense, whether that's towards Man United or the player. What did you make of him going?
The Mbeumo one was always going to happen. There were some Brentford fans last season saying that it wasn't a kind of dead cert that he was going to go.
And Visser, by the way. Sorry, Visser to Newcastle was the other one.
And Visser as well, I know,
right.
yeah. So Mbeumo was always going to go. We managed to get 70 million out of United in a transfer saga that dragged on and on and on. But I think we went in at 70 and they ended up paying 70. So, that was always going to happen. He left acrimoniously. We love Brian, but I don't know why he went to United. It's similar to Thomas Frank. I feel like he could have gone to a better club. There is no evidence to suggest that any player that goes to Man United over the last decade or in the next couple of years is going to be the one to change them. So I feel sorry for him that he's gone there, but he's earning a lot more money and he plays for Man United, which is one of the biggest clubs in the world. So you can't really say too much on that. The Wisser one, I can say a lot about because the way I don't know what it was with footballers last summer, but it just felt like it was okay not to do your job and not to abide by the terms of your contract. Which was a bit of a weird one. Having said that, they paid £50 million for Wisser, who's 29 years old, who they could have got for free next summer, and who has now been injured since the start of the season. So, respectfully to Johan Wisser, if he's listening, don't recover. I hope you stay on the sidelines, and this is what you deserve.
Keith Andrews, then, Mike, just talk to me quickly. Were you surprised at the appointment? What do you think of the start he's made?
I think he's made a decent start. I think I'd be lying if I said I was overly enthused by the appointment. When you think about the other kind of names that we were interviewing, Farioli, he's doing a great job at Porto, was in the mix. There was even rumours that Pochettino was contacted. I don't know how much truth there is in that. Surprised I wasn't, because I think Brentford have shown that they're a club that value continuity. Keith Andrews was already in the door. He'd learned under Thomas Frank as well, which I think is massively valuable to his kind of progression as a coach. He's seen what Thomas Frank has been successful for at Brentford, and he hasn't tried to rip up the playbook too much in terms of playing style. The thing that I think needs to evolve is that Brentford, I think, have kind of regressed a couple of years in terms of that playing style. We're a lot more defensive. We have far less of the ball, which only exacerbates those kind of problems in terms of a manager starting on the back foot, because people weren't really too optimistic about the appointment. As soon as you start playing poorly, or at least people view you as playing poorly, the fans are going to get on your back. So there is a pretty big section of the fan base that's already turned on Keith Andrews, despite, I think, us having an okay start. We beat Man United.
Bad, is it?
Yeah, it's okay. I think we've had a relatively difficult start at home, but we lost 1-0 to Man City. I think we gave it a good go in the second half. We've had two shockers, one against Forest and one against Fulham, the second one being far more damaging because he started in a back five. But I mentioned at the top, he's kind of reluctant to change things in games and really go for goals. So he needs to change and improve on that. And I think he will. He's shown so far the ability to kind of learn from defeat. So yeah, I think he's made a decent start considering the circumstances, losing the manager, losing the two best players, and losing your captain as well. I'm not surprised a lot of people were tipping us for relegation at the start of the season. But I don't think we'll go down. I think we've got enough quality.
What's going to happen Monday then?
It feels like a big game for both clubs, really, especially with the protests you mentioned at the top. Andrews, it feels like, at least for Brentford, there's going to be a lot of up and down, mood swinging from game to game. 1 minute we're good, 1 minute we're crap. And that is football, I guess. Monday, I mean, Nuno's first game at home, I think. Is it not?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Honestly, people have asked me, like, what kind of Brentford are you expecting? I don't know, because he's chopped and changed quite a lot. I hope we start in a back four. I hope we try and play on the front foot. But yeah, I mean, if we're taking the previous result against Nuno this season, we got battered against Forest on the first day. So I would 100% take a draw and a platform for us to build on. But I think at the moment for us, in particular, and for yourselves as well under a new manager, performances are far more, well, not more important than points, but I can take more from performances than I can from results, because I want to see the team running. I want to see the team fighting and playing good football. And I think we can do that on Monday night.
Mate, just give me some points. I don't really care about the result of the performance, quite frankly. Give me 3 points. Get us out of that relegation zone, level on points with you if we win, but obviously we'll still be below you unless we beat you about, I think if we win 4-0, we're on -10, you're on -3. So yeah, if we win 4-0, we'll go above you. But slim pickings, I think. Look, Mike, thanks so much for that. What's the score going to be then?
I'm going to go with a boring 1-1 draw.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think either team need that, but I kind of understand why you say that. I think better result for Brentford if that is to be the case. But yeah, see how the protest affects the West Ham players. But fingers crossed for a West Ham win, not from your point of view, of course. Look, thanks so much, Mike. Mike Johnston there from the Ealing Road Podcast. Thank you to everyone for listening to this week's pod. Hope you enjoyed mine and Jonesy's chat about the protest beforehand. Do let us know your thoughts on that. Let us know what you think about what Mike has had to say as well. Follow us on socials at @WeAre_West Ham. We are West Ham Pod on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And of course, if you like getting stuff, mainly this podcast, early, 24 hours earlier than everyone else, and listening without adverts, and subscribe at patreon.com/WeAreWestHam podcast for not very much money every month. Thanks for listening, everyone. West Ham are massive, up the Hammers, and Jonesy and I will speak to you as always next week.